As we go into meditation, I invite you to close your eyes. I affirm the presence of God and good in everything I say, think, and do. I embrace the guidance of love everywhere I go. I know strength, enthusiasm, and vitality forever flow through me from the all-sustaining life of the universe. I affirm my union with God, and I am at home in the universe wherever I may be. As we go deeper within, I invite you to contemplate these words. I welcome my highest good with love and gratitude. There's a greater power and presence in the universe. I call it God, divine intelligence, sacred one, creator, the eternal allness and totality of all there is. And I know that today unfolds with, pardon me, with great majesty, magnificence, and eternal magnitude of all that is divine, good, holy, sacred, exciting in life. For there's life everywhere all at once now. We see it in nature. We see it in the way we see each other, through eyes, through the hearts, through the breath and the beating hearts, in rhythm with what is real, what is joyful, and what is all to be celebrated as one. And so I know this day simply unfolds perfectly, as does every single flower on this planet. I give thanks for the ability that we have to be here today in the sanctuary at home, to be connected across the internet because of the wonderful technology we have. I give thanks for the music, the divine musicianship. I give thanks for everything and for the message that is brought to us in person by Reverend Suzette. There is only good, wholeness, peace, harmony, and absolute love reverberating everywhere. I give thanks for how it unfolds today for each and every one. And together we say, and so it is. Now, it is my great pleasure to welcome back Talia Morales.
Thank you.
Dear friend, fabulous musician. Take it away.
Yay!
Thank you.
I'd like to sing this song by Carrie Newcomer called Sanctuary. Will you be my refuge, my haven in the storm? Will you keep the embers warm when my fire's all but gone? Will you remember and bring me sprigs of rosemary? Be my sanctuary till I carry on, carry on, carry on. This one knocked me to the ground. This one dropped me to my knees. Should have seen it coming, but it did surprise me. In a state of true believers, on a street called us and them. It's gonna take some time till the world feels safe again. Will you be my refuge, my haven in the storm? Will you keep the embers warm when the fire's all but gone? Will you remember and bring me sprigs of rosemary? be my sanctuary till I carry on, carry on, carry on. You can rest here in Gnome Chapel or with the circle of friends, in a quiet grove of trees or between two bookends. Will you be my refuge, my haven in the storm? Keep the embers warm when my fire's all but gone. Will you remember? Bring me sprigs of rosemary, be my sanctuary till I carry on, carry on, carry on, carry on.
I just love you.
You.
You're just incredible.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah. Love having you here. It's okay. You can give it back to Mama. Give it to Mama. She needs it today. All right. So I was trying to think, how could I bridge what you had to say with the talk title? And what comes to me is you were talking about the sanctuary that's inside. And so my talk today is about embracing self-care, which is tapping into that sanctuary that's inside you. Now, there are external things and there are internal things, but the internal is what's the most important. So I'm glad Reverend Jerry's here today because he's going to speak next week. Aren't you? Yeah? Yeah. So today is, I'm just going to give you a little review of what's going to happen during the month. So today is the evolution of self-care. He's going to do balance of grief and joy. Yeah, very important. Then I'll come back with pleasure. And then I'm not sure, is it Reverend Sherry that's speaking? You guys keep changing my schedule, so I can't remember. Anyways, personalizing the infinite is the last fourth one, which is probably, in my opinion, one of the most important talks you want to hear. Because having a relationship with the infinite is, and I'll talk about that today, is beyond whatever you could imagine. So, I'm going to start off with somebody everybody knows. Her name is Pema Chodron. In fact, my cat is named after her. And she says, "Be kinder to yourself, and then let your kindness flood the world." That's just one of the most important things. And I talk about that a lot here. And that is, whatever you learn, give it away. Because when you give it away, you change other people. You change situations. You change your own life. You can feel, the gift that you give. According to the Positive Psychological Research of Whole Being Institute, that's a lot to say, people who thrive take care of themselves in 5 ways. And we're going to talk about this. A lot of what I'm going to say today, you already know. You already know it. The question is, do you do it? Do you practice it? Do you integrate it? Do you understand that it's all one? So I had to work at this week because I wanted to make sure you not only saw it, you heard it, you visualized it, but maybe you integrate it also. So there are 5 pictures up there. Here are the things that the whole Institute talks about. We focus on spirituality. That's the glow in the heart. By ensuring that you live meaningful lives. How many of you can remember when you didn't even think about God? It was pretty empty then. Or it was pretty scary. Where it affects the world, opposed to realizing that there's something greater out there that's working through us. And that's what that represented to me. They take care of their physical bodies. And I put in there a youth and another youth. Because I don't care how old you are. I'm youth. I don't care how old you are. We're all youth. And you could be 80 years old and you still think about, I should ask Mary this question. It's our beloved Mary up there. You still think about being a little kid, right? So in order to sustain ourselves and cultivate, we have to cultivate our bodies. We have to do that more now than we did when we were little. Otherwise, what happens? You can tell me.
If you don't use it, you'll lose it.
You'll lose it, that's right. But the deeper part of that is when you exercise, you're tapping into the connection between your mind and your body. How many people listen to their body? Go ahead and raise your hand. I mean, really listen. Because it's horrible when you don't listen because it just hurts, right? It just hurts. But when you listen, you can then move into working through that, whatever that is. Last night, in fact, I could not sleep. I'm like, why can I not sleep? I've done everything for my knee. And finally at 3 o'clock, it says, get up and put some ice on it. I put ice on it and went right to sleep. I was just fine. But that's having that connection. If we don't have that connection, it doesn't work. The next one is the two individuals at the bottom. It's intentional about intellectual stimulation. That's really critical because we have to keep learning as we grow older, and we have to remain open to other things. The world is changing. It's changing. How many people have gotten into AI lately? It is so much fun. It can be mind-boggling, but you can also use it. I used it this morning. I used it for part of this talk. I didn't like what it said, but I used part of it. You're still at choice with AI. Don't be afraid of it. It's not going to bite you. It will actually enlighten you. It's pretty cool, actually. But we have to be open to that expansion because the world is always going to continue to change. It's going to continue to grow. Then relationships. That's the one on the bottom left. Is to nurture constructive relationships, not just with your friends, but also with yourself. Sometimes we forget ourselves. I'm going to ask you to do something today, and you're all going to say, she's kind of crazy. I want you to make you number one. Everybody put a number one up. You're number one. Now, what does that mean? That means every time you don't know what to do, you ask yourself, is this good for me or not good for me? That's all it means. And then you say yes or no. If it says no, you can then take a step back and you can take a break until it is right for you. It's important to realize that you're number one. If it is good for you, then you move forward. Or you step back and you think, let me think about that. Let me make my decision maybe a couple days from now. There's nothing wrong with a pause. Have you heard that from me before? Yes, take a pause. And then the last one, which is the balloon faces. I found that and I thought, well, that's kind of a fun characteristic of being not afraid of our emotions. I can remember years and years ago when I was doing all of this, trying to figure all this out. I was in a hotel I'll never forget it. I was in a hotel in Santa Monica, and I thought it was by the beach, right? So I didn't even think about, what kind of hotel it was. It was just by the beach, must have been pretty good. It wasn't very expensive. But I know that when I sat on the bed, it went, you know what that was? That was plastic on the sheet, underneath the sheets. And I went, oh, this is great. But I can remember what was most important about that particular night is that I cried and I cried and I cried. And in fact, I cried so much and I cried and I wrote my journal, I wrote my journal, I wrote my journal. The next day I got up and I called my therapist and I said, when am I gonna stop crying? And she says, when you're done. But you know what? I still remember that story. I still remember that feeling of letting myself have my emotions and then talking to somebody about it. Not being afraid to let go and trust. And trust in the people that I was seeing, the practitioners, the ministers, my people, my new people, because I had to create a whole new family. So getting in touch with our emotions, whatever they may be, are really, really important. And not being afraid to say it. Obviously in an appropriate way if you can, and sometimes you can't. I mean, that same trip, I think I was at a, I don't know if it's that trip, another trip. I used to go to LA almost every week. And I was sitting in this, it looked like a huge hall, like a dance hall, but they were serving food along the back. And I ordered my food, and there was just, I don't know, almost reminded me of a mafia scene in a way. It sounds like I went to some really strange places. Anyway, there were tables back here, right? We're all along the back, and then there's this whole floor where they could dance, people could dance, but it wasn't very busy. And again, it was the same period of time in my life where I was still trying to figure things out. Anyway, the band sang Wind Beneath My Wings. And I sat in the back all by my lonesome, and I just cried. Again, I didn't care what people thought. It was about getting it out and understanding myself so that I wasn't, tied up by those feelings. And it was really interesting because the server just kind of ignored me until I was finished, and then he brought my food. So the point I'm trying to make is that our self-care, we have to have a commitment to that. We have to be committed to it. And maybe I'm talking to the choir here, but I think I needed to remind myself too. Just like the ice pack on my knee. I had to remind myself that this is important to me. So I'm going to have you consider that science, mind, and personal well-being work together. They work together to cultivate a good body and a good mind. Really important. So I have a question for you. What's it say? On some level we know this, but do we think these two concepts as working together? And this is the quote. While self-care encompasses various practices, science mind emphasizes the power of thought, and both create the intention that can and will shape our life. Do you believe that? Okay. Ernest Holmes said this. Please go forward one. There we go. My body is not conscious of life. This is a twister. But my thoughts is conscious of my body. My thought operates upon my body. So this part right here doesn't think. It just exists, whatever that is. But this is what thinks and creates and motivates and does all of it. This influences all of this. So if your body's not the way you want it to be, you don't work on your body, you work on this. Does that make sense? Really important. Then the body is the byproduct of what we think. I did that on purpose. When I read that, I went, oh, how do I tell you about this? But the point being is that it's our mind. Our mind is what influences everything that we do. So I want to talk about how all of this intersects. So I actually, and I did this without Mava's permission, I got really motivated by this, and I created another postcard. I'm going to start creating little postcards so that people, because nobody knows what it is that we do. They don't get. But we include everything in life in our teachings. And one of them is called self-care. So I created this. And let me just kind of explain to you. Now, and I may be repeating myself, but maybe you need to hear this more. And I know I need to hear it because I'm not always real good at it. So the first one is that physical self-care. This is about self-care. We have to physically, again, take care of ourselves. That means eat right, exercise, get enough sleep. How many people got enough sleep last night? Last night, you got enough sleep? No. Oh, a few of you did. Okay, good. I should keep my arm down. And practice good hygiene. Emotionally take care of ourselves. And this is kind of a critical comment, is that we have to engage in things that bring us joy. It's funny, this year I was, the last, COVID's been was tough, I think, for many, many people. And getting out and doing something almost seemed like a foreign thing, right? It seemed kind of foreign. How do I do that? And for myself, I painted my entire house over COVID. That's how I got out during. I walked. I did a lot of things, but still I felt like I couldn't go past this barrier. And the funny thing is, this year we both decided, I want some fun in my life. I want to go to Disneyland. I want to go bicycle riding. I want to go out, go have some fun. So I went and bought an e-bike, right? That's a lot of fun. So find the thing that brings you fun in your life. Don't sit around. I know I have some individuals that still stay home, and that's okay. If you can't get out, you can't get out. But I encourage you to do one thing at least every week that gets you outside. Do not stay at home. Then there's the mental self-care. And that again is about, doing things that are kind of different. How many feel like, I can say I'm doing this, kind of have those senior moments? Oh, good, I'm not alone. We have to stimulate our mind. We have to. That's another reason why I get into other technologies. It's because our mind has to move. It has to work. If we don't, it just says, okay, well, I'll just rest. And then I'll just forget. In fact, I was going to talk a little bit about, I'll get into that, another thought on that in a minute. But part of that is stimulating the mind and keeping the mind moving in the direction of progress, not letting it go to sleep. Self-care, again, I'm repeating myself, and spiritual self-care. And this, I want to read this comment, because there's one thing to doing spiritual self-care, and I've met people who are from different faiths, and I love people from different faiths, because then we get to talk about God in different ways. But this one, they said, engage in practice that aligns with their personal beliefs, such as meditation, prayer, gratitude exercise, or spending time in nature. I think that COVID has caused all of us to shift the way that we see God. It's made us more aware of, where do I want to be? You could be somewhere else instead of here on a Sunday. But you chose to be here because you know the message you're going to get is one that's going to move you into doing something for yourself. You're experiencing God in a different way. But I see a lot, I read articles about how some churches are losing people. And it's not they're not losing them. People are just finding God in different ways. And it's just about now bringing them home. Not about making them bad. They're not bad. They're finding God in different ways. So I'm glad you're home. So let's talk about how science of mind is. This is really important because Ernst Holmes emphasizes the relationship between self-care and spirituality. So I have a new chart. And I want to have you look at the top one. And that's oneness. I love this picture. I'm sorry it's not larger, but if you could see it, it looks like it's a tapestry. It's like a spider's web. And it's realizing that everything is connected. Whoever we are, wherever we are, no matter where we are connected to everything. To God, to your sister, your brother, your family, to us, to your kids, to the universe. We're fully connected as one. So there's only oneness. And there's only one divine presence, but that divine presence is moving through all of us, everything. It is not escaping and going somewhere asleep. It is right there. The next one on the right is the creative thought. Understanding our thoughts and beliefs shape our experiences. We have control over that. It shapes our experiences so that we move forward into a greater expression. I love, the idea of us being creative. The other part is that we get to direct our thinking. I'll tell you a little story, real quick story. When I was a little puppy minister, trying to decide what I was going to do when I grew up, and I wasn't very happy, but I had some really wonderful people that said to me, go create what you want. Just go create it. It took a while for me to kind of get that, but once I got that, it was like, whenever the negative thought came up about whatever, even I can remember moments when I said, God, I don't know what to do next, and God said, just wait, and then the door would open, somebody hand me a check. It's like I knew what I needed to do. I needed to keep moving forward in the ministry of what I was doing. And it didn't matter what it looked like. It does not matter. It matters just that you would create. So being in that creative place. The law of attraction. That's the Buddha comment. When I saw that, I went, how cool is that? The Buddha is thinking like Ernest Holmes. But I know. It's the ancient wisdom, guys. So it says, what you think you become. Oh my goodness. What you feel you attract. And what you imagine you create. The Buddha said that. How cool is that? But that's Ernest Holmes, 100%. We create. So if you want something, all you have to do is think about it and allow the universe and everything around you to move in the direction. In addition to that, which is this part right here, the teaching symbol we don't talk about, is that you get to work out your problems. How many people have wanted to buy a car and said, I don't have enough money? Yeah, people in the back are laughing. Yeah, I don't have enough money for that. But the truth is if there's something you really, really want in life, and your heart is saying, I really want to have a white Toyota RAV4, it's going to show up. And you will have all that you need. Whether it's you need income, it will show up. But we have to believe in that kind of faith that that's what's going to happen, that we can attract that. And, I gave you an example in my own car. But my point is we all can have what we want. And that sounds far-fetched, but it's not. Now, if I wanted $1 million, I don't believe I can have it. So guess what? I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to attract that. Although, I won't go there. The next one is affirmations and spiritual mind treatment. I love that's a little Buddha, India boy who's praying. And I want to talk about affirmations and spiritual mind treatment for a moment. In my days, and I'm sure many of you have done this, when things didn't look really good, I would go around and write a bunch of affirmations and I'd put them all over my house. I put them inside the medicine cabinet. I put them inside the food, where my dishes were. I put them all over the place, in the shower. I put them in places that made me think differently. Now, why did I do that? Because I must have had a very strong negative mind that would say, oh no, that can't happen. The truth is, it can. But we have to put ourselves in, we have to train our mind, and I'll talk more about this later, to move in the direction that we want to go. Otherwise, it will stay where it's at. It will stay in that place that doesn't want to talk about it. It will make you fearful. It will do all those things. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But the idea here is, one is to create affirmations. I love this one. See, I am worthy of good things. I'm worthy of good things. I'm worthy of good things. I can remember many, many days of just taking a sheet of paper and writing the affirmation over and over and over, trying to shift that mind into moving in the direction. And then the science of mind treatment, and that's just an affirmative prayer, is we're engaging in a systematic process of affirming our desired outcome. The key here is the systematic process. Now, I used to hate it that I had to learn the 5 steps. It was like 5 steps. But today I'm so appreciative because I don't ever forget anything. You know, I allow Spirit to move through me. I allow Spirit to say, you know, and maybe it's not in the same order, and maybe I repeat myself, but I never forget all the good things that, you know, recognizing, unifying, realizing what I want, giving great thanks that that's going to happen in advance, and releasing it so I don't have to worry about it anymore. Just do my part. That's all that matters. Do my part. And then the last one is the healing power, physical, mental, emotional healing. That is all about aligning our thoughts with what we want to see. Really important. That integration. So you can see how self-care and science of mind work together. So I'm going to tell you a little story. And then what time do we have here? Oh, I have good enough time. Good. So this last weekend, I spent more money than I think I spent all last year on self-indulgence. A little bit. Yay! Let me preface that. Self-indulgence of getting a chipper. Because, you know, now we have to chip everything away. You have to recycle everything. Had to buy a refrigerator because that was self-indulgence too, so my food would stay fresh. But I want to tell you, when I got the chipper, you know, the bill of lading said 350 pounds. I thought, oh my God, how am I going to pick that thing up, right? Well, they delivered it right to my barn. And of course, nothing is assembled, right? Nothing is assembled. Now, I'm telling you this little story because then I'm going to weave into this the three things that I want you to understand about when life happens to you. And in fact, when I had uncovered every little thing, and they had this box, I've never seen a box like this, where it was like a little sleeve, and it was a sleeve that sleeved into itself. And I had to get rid of that box before I could get everything out because it was a lot of stuff. Anyway, I'm unloading things, and I'm carefully unloading, and in there I'm going, oh, there's a bolt missing. There's a screw missing. And then when I got it all undone, oh, this little piece over here, we're talking steel. I mean, this stuff's big. It's bent. I'm like, oh. Now, I tell you this because I wanted your mind to go to the bad place. I wanted you to realize that your mind and my mind are very powerful. Very powerful. So during this whole process, and I'll tell you more about it, I had a choice. There's a line of either going, oh my God, I don't have everything I need. This is not going to work. I just spent $1,000 on this, went down the rabbit hole. Or go, well, wait a minute, let me just take my time and look at this. And start on number 1, which is unpacking. And as I did that, everything started to come together. I didn't panic. It's so easy to panic when you especially get something that's new and you don't even know if you can do it. Then it was, oh, how much does this weigh? I'll never be able to make this work. And then I started, from number 1, it said, put tire number 1 on. And funny thing is, I could lift it up and put tire number 1 on there. And as I went along, I could have gone into, I'm not a guy, I don't know how to do this, right? Or I'm not going to succeed, there's going to be something that's not going to work, right? Are you with me on this? Does anybody else do that? I'm not alone, I hope. Or I should just give up, I'll just go pay my guy to do it for me.
No. Sorry about that.
I love you guys. I love you guys. But I didn't do that. And the reason why I didn't do that is because I worked very hard. And the point I'm trying to make here is we have to work really hard to do what I call tame our mind. Tame our mind. Because if you don't have a trained mind, then what's going to happen are all the negative things come up. If there's one thing we teach here, it's how to train your mind. Not to train your mind like they do at EST, but for you to learn how to do that on your own. But to know when you have a negative thought, you have to override that with a positive thought so that negative thought goes away. If we don't do that, what do you think the negative thought does? It takes over. Because your mind is powerful. I can't say that enough. Our mind is powerful. Now maybe what you want seems like it's even available to have. But all you have to do is think, I can. I will. I'm going to make it through this. Everything's going to be okay. And know that as you start to create, remember I told you about the story of creating? When I didn't have a church, I had no clue what I was going to do. But you know what? Spirit supported me and brought somebody to me the next Monday and said, hey, I have a place for you. You want to do it? I never expected. In fact, when I graduated when I was ordained, I left my ordination panel, and he said to me, well, if this doesn't work out, what are you going to do?
Wow.
Seriously, that's the last few words he said.
Wow.
And I said, I'll create my own. And seriously, I had no idea what I was going to do. But God had a better idea. So I had, I know most of you have been with me a long time. And I say this every single day. And every time I get up here, you have to know that you can create and you will be okay. No matter what the storm looks like. And it's hard sometimes. But I know you can do it. See, the thing is, once you control your thoughts, all the fog goes away. And you have what we call freedom. That's a quality of God up there. You create freedom in your life. Really, really important. The second thing is, and it's called perfection in individualism. I think I have this. Yeah, there it is. Spiritual perfection and individualism. What does that mean? And I want you all to think about when you didn't really have any spiritualism in your life. You didn't have any spiritual stuff, And then you started to wake up and you started to go, what do I want? And all of a sudden things started to shift. And then when they shifted, you started to go, well, let me try this. And then you tried a little bit more, and then pretty soon the tries got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. The thing about what we teach here is that when we really get it, is that we can then create the ideal life that we want. I can tell you when I lost everything in my life, and I didn't have science of mind. I didn't have it. And then somebody dumped me off the church, said, see you in an hour, and that was the beginning of my life. But I didn't feel like it. But every day I went and I said, I'm going to try something new. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to figure out what happened. Blah, 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 blah. And you know what? I have probably a much better life today than I would have if I'd stayed where I was. Because I have total consciousness about it. I have an abundance of financial support. I have a wonderful family. All of you are my family, whether you like it or not. That's you. And I know that I am an individualized creation of the divine. And because I know that for myself, I know that's the truth about all of you. And that's the shift, is that no matter where we are in our lives, we know that each person is an individualized creation of the divine, because we're all connected, we're all one. The other thing they put in here, and I thought this was good, is because of this, we don't have to model anybody. We don't have to play the Joneses. We get to be who we want to be and do it our way. Now, we have to obviously, be in society and do all that stuff. But in our heart and our mind, we get to create. And then we just allow the universe to support us in doing that. Okay? Then the last one is no self-care without action. Everybody know what that is? You got to move your feet. There's no praying and saying, okay, God, do it for me. It ain't going to happen. When we know we're grounded in our spirituality, we are having human experiences. We have to move through life in that way, but we also have to move our feet and move in the direction we want to go. So for myself, I like to use me because I'm just telling you parables about my life, is that when I didn't know what to do about Om, and somebody said, here's a recreational hall, don't tell them you're a church, but here's a recreational hall, I did. I created what I thought would attract people. And so 1 was food. Don't you love that one? I knew that. Hopefully 2 was me, and 3 was teach something. And so I would give a talk, didn't have a band, didn't have beautiful music. We had one of those things, CD player. And we sang to it. God bless us. Cindy was my practitioner. I only had 1 practitioner. And so we would then, after we had the talk, we would pull a table out like we're going to do today. And I would have anywhere between 6 to 20 people sitting there, and I would feed them, and we would have kind of like a little class for about an hour. And it was so cool. It was so cool because they came because they wanted to learn something. And so along the way, I learned that what was important was, well, the food was, for sure. The food was a little bit, but it was the companionship. It was the community. It was the learning something new so they could take it and practice it. But we have to do that. We have to have action. So if you're wanting something and you need support today, see a practitioner. We've got, how many do we have here? We have 1.5, 2, 2.5, 2 3/4. See Mava. It's time for her to practice. We will know for you that you can have that. All right? There's so much more I could talk about, but I'm not going to. Have you heard enough? We still have about 35 minutes before the food's coming, so you're going to have to hang out with me a little bit. Well, we have good music coming too. All right, well, let me end with this. I think when I started, I asked you to be selfish with number 1. Well, here's what Audre Lorde said about that. She says, self-care is not self-indulgence. It's self-preservation. And Rumi says, stop acting so small. You are the universe in ecstatic motion. Isn't that cool? So it's self-preservation. I think that's really important to realize. In order for us to prevail in life, we have to take care of ourselves. We have to be forward thinkers. We have to take care of our physical being. We have to take care of our mental. And wherever you are, if you need support, we're here to do that. And sometimes that's hard. And sometimes hearing things you don't want to hear. But it's all about knowing that it's in the direction of moving you so that you can have, so that you can create. So I'm going to end with one last thought. A lot of people ask me this a lot. And I never even thought much about it until I wrote it down today. And it says, how do you do what you do? How many of you have asked me that in here? Come on, in one way or another you've said, or you're too busy. That's a good one. You guys give me that one. And here's the answer. I just do it. I show up and take a step. My mother-in-law asked me this, because she asked me this. I show up, take a step in the direction of my desire, the thing that I want to do. And then I know, because of all the work I've done and all the teachings I've done and all the wisdom that's out there, that's already been there forever and ever, I know the universe is going to support me. I just know it will. And even if it doesn't look like it, I go, there's a possibility. So that's what I want you to do. Just do it. Just show up. Just keep saying, I'm going to move in the direction that I want to go, and know that you are going to be supported no matter what. You're smiling at me, and I think it's because you know I'm talking about you. Right? It's done that, yeah? All right, so we're going to do our affirmation, and we'll do it 3 times. And the first time is we're going to whisper it, then we'll speak it, and then we'll yell it, if you want to yell. And the reason for this, speaking is to your soul. Your soul has to hear this. Speaking is for yourself, and the rest is for the universe. You want to stand up and do this? Let's stand up. All right. So we're going to just whisper this. I mindfully fill up my cup with the love of who I am. Okay, let's do it again. I didn't hear you guys. A little bit of louder whisper than that, okay? I mindfully fill my cup up with the love of who I am. Very good. Now, your voice, regular voice. I mindfully fill my cup up with the love of who I am. And we should open the door and scream it out to let everybody know. All right, let's do it. Loud voice. I mindfully fill my cup up with the love of who I am. So I invite you to close your eyes and let me just claim today that I know that that is the truth of our very being. That we're filling ourselves up. We're filling our cup up with the truth of self-care and knowing that we have full control over everything that we do, we think, we say. And so I bless this day. I bless the message, all the stuff that we got to learn to become perfect, whole, and complete, which is right here, right now. And so I bless each person, knowing that we take this into our lives, moving it through our lives, and then giving it away so that we assist society in moving forward into a greater expression. And so with that, I give great thanks, and I let it be. And so it is. And have a seat.